Yeah, okay, thank you. Well, this is a very, very important day as per the National Center for Science Communicators and the National Council for Science Museums are concerned. We are here assembled to have a memorial lectures, very two distinguished, a pillar of National Center for Science Communicators are not with us. And this particular year is very, very a different year as far as the NCSC is concerned because we lost four, as I said to earlier, a pillar of NCSC, starting with Dr. Chidambaram, then we had M.R. Srinivasan, then we have Dr. Nalikar, we had lost Dr. Saroj Ghose. And one of the NCSC committee meeting, we decided to honor their contributions by organizing memorial lectures. And today is the day, today is the day both the Dr. Saroj Ghosh and Dr. Venkatvardhan would have been there. They would have celebrated their own birthdays. Okay, we wish them well. We advance. We wish them celebrate their birthday in the heavens. In fact, without any ado, may I request the director of the Nehru Science Center, Mr. Umesh Kumarji, to formally welcome the distinguished speaker of the day today. We have two speakers, Dr. G.S. Rautela going to talk on Saroj Ghosh, and Dr. Pradyumna Ganguly going to have a word with on Dr. V.S. Venkatvardhan. Okay, without anything, may I request Umeshji to go ahead. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, all present here as well as on online setup. It's a privilege, in fact, for me to be part of this two memorial lectures. Both of them we should consider as gents. So far as Dr. Saroj Ghosh is concerned, though I'm not fortunate enough to work with him because when I joined, almost 3 years after that, he retired. Uh, but we have interacted with him a lot many times when he has come. Some of the things I remember when he came to Nagpur. I joined at Nagpur, and I remember when he came to Nagpur, uh, he used to connect. I heard a lot about him from people in Nagpur because Mr. P.V. Narasimha Rao, who was the Prime Minister, he was well connected with that, and he used to call him as Saroj. Very rarely you find when Prime Minister calls somebody by name. And he used to, at that time, there was no STD, I remember. So he will, okay, book a trunk call. I would like to speak to PM or even Arjun Singh, both of them. So there were some very, very rare incidents he has shared. And I remember once he told, and he later on he wrote when we celebrated 25 years of our Nehru Science Center. There was an article because he told when Nehru Science Center was to be inaugurated, they approached Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi, and he had some program in Mumbai and said, I can give only 20 minutes, and the conditions will be nobody else will speak, only the Prime Minister will speak and go. And he agreed for that. I think then out of those 20 minutes, when he came and they started demonstrating, interacting, I think he ended up spending 90 minutes here. That's the power of Science Center and you can say Science Center exhibits who can keep engaged even a Prime Minister for 90 minutes, differing all other programs. Uh, so far as Dr. Venkatvardhan is concerned, again, I just met him once, I think, when he came to Nagpur again as a member of, chairman of executive committee of Nehru Science Center. So the meeting was held. But I remember some of the things when I came here in 99, he used to keep some passes in his pocket. And wherever he will go, he will distribute, okay, because I know the director has some seat reserved in planetarium shows. So wherever he'll go and he'll meet, okay, you would like to come, you'll just have this pass, show that at the gate you can convert them into zero money ticket and join. So these are some of the things, but they have been really very, very instrumental. whatever we are at Science Center or Science Center movement, he is considered, Dr. Ghose is considered as father of Science Center movement. We will directly listen, um, extending a very warm welcome to all of you, and especially to our distinguished speaker, Dr. Prabodh Ganguly and Mr. G.S. Rautela. In fact, I'm fortunate I have worked with him a long time. Briefly, I will introduce Mr. Rautela. Uh, he is basically a science communicator, as we all know, a science center professional, STEM education expert. He is currently the advisor of Department of Science and Technology, Government of Uttarakhand, and he's leading the project of Science City over there along with other 11 new science centers. It's a big movement which started by Dr. Ghose. I think Mr. Rautela is now taking it forward particularly in the state of Uttarakhand, including lab on wheels like our mobile science exhibition, Jigyasa Kaksh, which is a curiosity center, border science festivals. Uh, he was Director General of National Council of Science Museum from 2009 to 2016. Before that, he was Director of Science City in Kolkata from 2006 to 2009. And before that, uh, he was Director of Nehru Science Center, where all we are sitting. And then I remember he was in charge for the host project as well before he came to Mumbai, though he started from Mumbai itself. So a long experience. He was chairman of SICA, if I remember, when he was director of Nehru Science Center, international organization of UNESCO. Uh, I'll request him, in fact, more is said. I think it will take more time since we are much behind this. I'll request Mr. Rautala to excuse me. I'm skipping some of his part, but we'll listen directly because he is the one person who has very closely worked with Dr. Ghosh. If I remember, I think he may be the only person I know that who has closely worked with Dr. Ghosh. So we'll see, listen directly what I should say from horse mouth, the experience, how he has shared the moment, how they have shaped this, what we have at NCSM today. So,
Yeah. I think, before going, may I request the chairman of National Center for Science Communicator, Dr. A.P. Jayaraman, before he gives his verdict, may I request him to please welcome them with a basket of fruits, because his National Center is 30 years old organization, start yielding the fruits, in fact. Why not that share the fruit with the people, a giant like Dr. J.S. Rautela?
ह्यूरिंग न्यूज नहीं
वेरी मच
सरोज घोष का मेमोरियल लेक्चर है
गुड हेल्थ
And
तुमको भी आया है क्या इन्विटेशन
next speaker is
कहाँ से रहती है मेलडोर में बोल के सोचा
the next speaker is also here, so why not Dr. Pradyumna Ganguly, please accept.
how are you? Good.
So without taking much of your time, may I request Dr. Jayaraman to just send us a brief of NCSC and these memorial lectures.
And good morning all fellow professionals. Good morning. Thank you all fellow professionals. We are exceptionally happy today because as professionals, we are self-actualization with in memoriam with the two veterans of our profession. This is a time to look back so that we can look forward, because science communication today is at crossroads. And if you look at the history of science communication by these two veterans, we will come to know two phases of its history, started by an engineer. Science is knowing and doing things. Most of us scientists, we know so many things, but we don't do anything. Any idea is to be converted into an infrastructure, into something which is feasible for people to see. There is an engineering mindset required. The National Council of Science Museums today, the biggest chain of science museums in the world, is fabricated, engineered, and delivered by Saroj. That is a historic moment, and history will record this phenomenon. And this is a formula for the world to follow. in a science-friendly, technology-dominated world, there is no other way except to have interaction with science and technology through museums. Museums, once upon a time, were showpieces. Some static object will remain with a label and that's the end of it. But today, museums are active. There is a citizen science movement. So, and to see the two ends of this spectrum, that is from science on one side, the purest of pure science, blue skies research on one side, and the deliverables, demonstrables on the other side, the engineering side. So the scientific mindset to the engineering mindset. But it's surprising that we started with an engineering mindset first. So that is a contribution which Saroj particularly privileged because being from the training school of the Atomic Energy Establishment and 4 years senior to me, I have known him at close quarters. As soon as our course was over, he went over to that Institute of Fundamental Research because the brilliant people go out of that. That's the reason why he left, and we remained back. Now, when you see the planetarium movement in the country, where the planetarium has penetrated into the body social, Venkatvardhan has made seminal contributions. And he made an aesthetic art, a poet. Usually scientists in the sensitive elevations of physics are poets. Truth is beauty, beauty is truth. That's what Keats said, and that equation is being honored by many of these people. So as a practicing science communication professional, I feel exceptionally happy today, sandwiched between two veterans, with the witnesses and spectators of that profession. Is an honor and privilege for me to flag off this event. Thank you.
I think, yes, we are just about to start the memorial lectures exactly 4 years back. And 1st and 2nd of September 2001, we had an international conference in honor of Dr. Saroj Ghose. Okay. And I'd like to show you the proceedings of the same thing here. And if the Dr. Saroj Ghose had continued his life, he would have been 90 years today, in fact. Like, if somebody asked me to just give a one-line introduction of Dr. Saroj Ghose, I could say the Saroj Ghose was a pioneer, mentor, institutional builder whose contribution led to the foundation of vibrant culture of science communication in our country. If similarly analogy applies to today's speaker, if I ask somebody, please introduce Dr. Rautelaji, I only can introduce with the 4 lines. 4 sentences, I could say. A science communicator, science center professionals, STEM education expert. And friends, this is a memorial lecture. Well, the audience is here. There won't be any questions and answer session. So, sir, you have a privilege of extending your talk by another 5 minutes. Okay? So now the floor is yours, sir. Over to Dr. J.S. Rautela, sir.
Thank you. ये माइक्रोफोन इधर को लाना पड़ेगा शायद. Slide. My slides. Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank National Center for Science Communication and the Nehru Science Center for giving me this opportunity, especially for 2 reasons. One is it is a memorial lecture of Dr. Ghose, whom I consider my guru, mentor, or a leader in the science communication field in India. Second, coming to Nehru Science Center is like coming to home, where I spent 21 years of my formative career, and this municipal dumping ground for 200 years was converted to a science center. When we came, we had knee-deep garbage, and how we developed this, and Dr. Saroj Ghose especially moved from Calcutta to Bombay and to develop this science center. And that is why we have special credit to him for developing this special science center in Mumbai, which is interactive. Can I just, why I have chosen this topic of science center movement in India, the paradigms of change. The changes that have come to this particular field of science communication, Dr. Saroj Ghose is the agent of change. That is why I have chosen the topic. Otherwise, I would have spoken something else. And let me talk a little bit about Dr. Saroj Ghosh before I go to the real topic. He was born in 1935 on 1st of September. In fact, today would have been his 91st birthday, and he died just 3 months back on 27 May this year in US while living with his daughter. He was an electrical and communication engineer, MS in communication engineering from Harvard University, research work Smithsonian Institution, and later he submitted for PhD in Jadavpur University. And he headed Birla Industrial Technological Museum in Calcutta and the Nehru Science Center from 1974 to 1978. Then later he was the director of NCSM, which was elevated later to DG in 1987, and he retired in 1997 as Director General of National Council of Science Museum. The man who never sat idle was the Saroj Ghosh. He was later, after retirement, set up the Town Hall Museum in Calcutta, which he used to very loudly call high-tech storytelling museum, where he used technology to tell the story of Calcutta city. Later, he became advisor to Science City Gandhinagar, and that opened up during his advisorship. And he was advisor to Parliament Museum. It's not only advisor, he developed the Parliament Museum in Delhi. He was advisor to President of India later to develop the President Museum in Rashtrapati Bhavan. And until 1980, till 84, at the age of 84, he worked. He stopped when he had a heart attack in 1984 while working on the ground in Rashtrapati Bhavan Museum. I remember that day he was soldering himself. Being an engineer, he had not stopped soldering circuits. So this was his commitment to science museums and museums. And he got major awards mirroring his outstanding leadership, creativity, and contributions. Was one of them, the foremost of them are Indira Gandhi Prize by the Indian National Science Academy, Hari Om Trust Award by UGC, National Award for Best Effort in Science Popularization among Children by NS Department of Science, and he got Padma Shri in 1989, Padma Bhushan in 2007, and he also got an international award, Primo Robis International Prize from the Tristy International Foundation in 1996. He was chosen the Fellow of Association of Science and Technology Centers, USA in 1997. And he served as a President of International Council of Museums in Paris from 1992 to 98. Only Asian so far who has got this coveted position, which has about 50,000 museum professionals all over the world. So that was his, and we remember him as today great planner, executor, and institution builder. True professional who always looked ahead, made important contribution in science communication, was the architect of major paradigm shifts in science museums and science centers in India. Had great networking quality. That's why he was so successful with politicians, bureaucrats, scientists, educationists, and science communicators. Extremely committed, worked till the age of 85. And I would remember him as a disciplinarian and a very tough administrator. I remember during his days, he had a lockout in the Birla Museum in Calcutta, so tough that he crushed the anti-organization movement. So that's why he was so successful. Now, coming to my topic of the paradigm shifts in museums and science museums, I would give you some world scenario first. In 1600 to 1800, early scientific collections were kept in the cabinets of curiosity in the wealthy Europeans' houses. So they would amuse their guests, and they were not put in public domain for education. But in 1683, which is called the first organized science museum, Ashmolean Museum in Oxford University. And in 1773, the Charleston Museum, which was housing the work of a Nobel laureate from France, and it was in it was a Nobel laureate from US in South Carolina. In 1794, the Museum National de Historique Naturelle, that is a natural history museum only having natural history and research objects, was opened in Paris. Now, 1846, the Smithsonian Institution was founded to develop, which has today 7 important museums in Washington, D.C. But the important movement of science museums started, especially with interest to India, was 1851 when Crystal Palace exhibition to promote the industrial products of British Empire were later housed for these models and demonstrations were put in a museum called the London Science Museum in 1857. And then that was a museum inside glass door objects. But in 1903, Deutsches Museum in Munich was opened where there was participatory element. Visitor would press a switch and see something happening. So that was a participation part involving visitors. Then similarly, 1933, the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago had the similar pattern of operative exhibit. But later, in 1969, a transformation happened in Science Museum field. In San Francisco, the Exploratorium was open to public. It was totally interactive science center, and it was developed by the brother of Robert Oppenheimer, the Manhattan experiment scientist. He was a school teacher, the Frank Oppenheimer, his brother was a school teacher. He had a very interesting idea. He said science cannot be learned without props. It means you have to give visitors handling abilities, changing the variables so that they can understand the process of science, what is going on. So that transformed the science museum profession. And since then, we have only science centers, no science museum. So, and this is that Crystal Palace exhibition which happened in London in 1851, gave birth to the Science Museum of London. And in India, the major developments which happen in the museum, science museum field, I would call it, 1814, the Indian Museum Calcutta was set up with natural history and geology section. It was not a science museum as such, but it had a section on natural history and geology, which is still today. And it was called Jadughar. And it was a place of amusement. But really, right in Maharashtra, 1875, the Pune Industrial Museum came up. A similar way, the London Science Museum came. Britishers had an exhibition of industrial products in Pune, and that developed into a museum of science in 1875. It was later named after Lord Ray in 1890, and Lord Ray Maharashtra Industrial Museum in 1947. But today, the existing Mahatma Phule Vastu Sangralaya in Pune, 1868, is the culmination of that museum effort in India in a greater way. But later, Government of India thought of museums are important. So 1942, British Museum, Physics Museum was set up in Physics Department of Banaras Hindu University, where only experiment the professors used in the classroom were demonstrated. But 1954, Birla, a private initiative, Birlas thought it is important, so they set up a museum in Pilani. 1856, the NPL Museum came up, focused on standards and calibration. In 1959, the Birla Industrial Technological Museum, Kolkata, first organized public museum, came up in India in a government initiative. That came because of the interest of the Professor Dr. Bidhan Chand Roy, who happened to be the physicians to Birla family, requested them to give some place to set up this museum. So Birlas donated the house which they had purchased from the brother of Rabindranath Tagore. And that house, which 19A Guru Sadai Road, still houses the Birla Industrial Technological Museum in Calcutta. And that is the beginning in India. That movement started where Dr. Ghose joined it after coming back from Smithsonian Institution. And after his master's, of course, he came and joined Birla Museum. And then he was sent to Bombay and to set up the Birla, this Nehru Science Center. In 1965, similar museum came in Bangalore because the Vishwesvaraya Society donated the building and the place which they had decided to the government to set up the museum. In 1975, a new paradigm shift happened to museum field in India that Children's Science Park Mumbai was set up. It is a non-coercive learning environment where you have freedom, you have no, and you learn science through play. And 1985, another landmark, Nehru Science Center. Though 1978, we have started a temporary exhibition on light and sight in the shed, which is at the beginning of the Nehru Science Center. But finally, the major building, that this building today where we are, came up in 1995 and opened by then Prime Minister Mr. Rajiv Gandhi. And another change happened going out telling world about Indian science. 1985 to 87, the Festival of Indias were set up by Dr. Ghose, and it went to many countries, England, USA, Mauritius, France, Russia, where we had these exhibitions to tell the foundation of Indian science and technology. And in 1997, another landmark paradigm shift came up. Out of a frustration Dr. Ghose had to face or fund scarcity in NCSM. And so we had a fund cut from the ministry. So he came to Bombay, I remember, in 1994 and told all of us that days are not away when you have to earn your salary. So the idea of Science City came up in 1997, which is towards self-sufficiency. And let me tell you, I'm very proud of telling this, Science City Kolkata still today remains self-sufficient. Government doesn't give any money to run it. It earns its own money to run. And in 2012, innovation hubs, the maker spaces we call, were introduced by NCSM out of an initiative which was approved by the National Innovation Council. When Sam Petroda happened to be the chairman, special funds were given to NCSM to set up one innovation hub or a maker space in every science center. Let me tell you, we are today having 40 plus these centers across India in every science center. In 2013, the demand for science centers started coming from various states, where NCSM, because of its limitation of staff and infrastructure, was limited. So we had to set up its own company, CMD, in 2013, which meets the growing demand. Let me tell you, this company today is 350 crore annual turnover. And that's a very successful venture that NCSM started, because these are the ideas I'll tell you were the forward-looking ideas with Dr. Ghose gave. So whenever you have a problem, you think about something ahead. These are the few exhibits of the Lord Ray Museum in Pune, Mahatma Phule Museum. You see natural history products and as well as some geology projects on the glass cabinet. But here you had nothing except to read the name. And the Dr. Ghose, when he came from Smithsonian, got another idea that one museum in Birla Museum is not sufficient to reach the large population of India. So he introduced the mobile science exhibitions, and which would go to villages, spent about 2 months in villages to organize these exhibitions in schools. And today, let me tell you, there are 45 plus buses which are running across the country under the administration of NCSM. Then this concept of Science Park, which originated in Bombay, called the Children's Science Park. Later, inspiration of this, St. Louis Science Center in US said, they came, studied this, and set up a science park in St. Louis. And Span magazine of that year of 1987 carried an article, said the Indian inspiration. So they got the idea. Later on, New York, Alan Friedman came to India and studied our science park, set up a science park in New York. And later, the Clore Garden of Science, the biggest one in India, in the world today, was set up in Israel after their experts came to India to study. So this inspiration, not on the science park concept, went across the globe, across the boundary of India. And this is the Nehru Science Center, which was partially open in 1978 in a temporary exhibition, and 1985 fully operational, first interactive science center in the country. Let me tell you, this had influence of the exploratorium. We all were sent to exploratorium to study the new concept, new exhibits, how we incorporate interactivity into exhibits. And since then, All science museums, science centers in India are interactive with a science park. And if you look at the rise of this participatory and interactive nature of science centers, started in 1906 in Deutsches Museum, 1930 to 1950, when education was considered, STEM education was considered important, and museums would help in supplementing science education. These participatory museums in 1933 and up to in Chicago came up. Exploratorium became the interactive science center, and then Ontario Science Center, the same India in Canada, opened with the interactive exhibit. And 70s and 80s, all the science centers in the world were inspired by Exploratorium in San Francisco. 1995, a virtual museum of computing came up in Oxford University. You know how changes are happening. Look at the technology is influencing development of museum. 2011, Google Arts and Culture project came up. You can see the important objects of India even on Google Art project. And so museums became virtual, online. And 2006, International Museum of Women in San Francisco came. It's totally virtual. It has no physical reality. So this is the trend that now happening. I'll talk a little about that today. So I would classify the generation of science center into four. The first generation was showcasing scientific artifacts. So learning was only passive. Second generation became participatory, where the process of science was explained through hands-on or demonstrations that call experiential learning. Third generation was promoting public science education through discovery, interaction, and participation, connecting science to everyday life, indirectly allowing changing of variables, exploration of scientific concepts and ideas that had social implications. The fourth generation, that is emerging trend now, is the museum transition to promoting active citizenship, innovative and civic engagement and activism. And they're allowing visitors to participate in debates and in other social media platforms. So that is the new trend that is the world is witnessing today. Let me tell you a little about India, where we are. We have about 52 museums, that science centers, which NCSM has set up. The red ones are with NCSM, which are administered by NCSM, managed by NCSM. The yellow ones are the ones, 26 of them, NCSM built and handed over to states to run. And if you see the growth of science center decade-wise, if you look up to 1970, only 3 museums, 1980, only 3 museums existed in India. Then once the NCSM was set up in 1978, we were delinking, NCSM was delinking from CSIR, because low priority for museums in CSIR, their primary objective was research. And so a special autonomous body was created, and National Council of Science Museum in 1978, and see the growth. The growth started with the formation of NCSM, and today we are 56 of them, 52 of them. But in addition to this, there were private initiatives by state governments, and 14 of them are in different places in the country, which are set up by local initiatives. And especially Gujarat today has taken a lead. They are setting up science centers in every district. And that is a new initiative which is coming up. And I'm also very happy to tell you where I'm associated with Uttarakhand today. Every district, there are 13 districts in Uttarakhand, every district science center work has started. And this demand is growing. There are 36 projects, new science center projects are in hand today in NCSM. So, and from various places, you can see this map. But you will find, if you see the map of India once again, some equitable distribution is not there. Some of the states, look at Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, and Punjab and Haryana, we are still short of. If you look at the first initiative, West Bengal, where you find more dots of red, we are because of the headquarters of the museum development was in West Bengal. And if you look at the footfall of these centers which are under NCSM, they have touched about 15 million visitors in a year. So, and that is a great sign that but that is not enough. It is only about 1% of Indian population. We have to have, that's why the 1974, the Planning Commission Task Force report, which had recommended one center per district, that has not been realized so far because of infrastructural capacity that we don't have today in India. So now the states are taking initiative. I hope we will be able to spread our wings. So what are the paradigm shifts that has happened in science communication from the beginning? We initially call popularized science to tell people there is science. Then awareness, make people aware of those issues of science and technology. Then people said, no, that is not enough. We must make people understand those concepts. Then they said that is also cannot happen without engaging public in science, in the scientific process. And today we call it public trust in science. And this particular word has come because of corona vaccine, where science delivered. And we had very successful attempts to get civilization, human civilization, out of this corona danger. So we came out of that because now people have more trust in science. So this is what is being projected in science communication field. And in science centers, initially there was only storytelling. The rich people would tell the story of the object they got. But then they have a showcase where museums had glass door, you could believe them. Then there was a participation, there was interaction, and there was engagement. And now we are talking about, with technology, immersive simulations of unknown, because the museum approach starts from known to unknown or from unknown to known. So, for example, Indus Valley civilization, you have only ruins, and research by archaeologists have predicted how the city and the town planning was. Today, digitally, if you can recreate that city, that becomes and show to public, that's the immersive simulation. Or in a nuclear exhibition upstairs, you would find nobody could go to inside the reactor. You can simulate digitally and take people in an immersive show inside the reactor. These are the technology interfaces that are making science museums more popular. So from touch me not, so hands-on to minds-on to emotions-on. This is contextualization model came up in between, where you contextualize the presentation, how it affects my life, how it is linked to my life. That was the concept came in. And now it's from physical to virtual museums are coming up. So you probably may not have a one-day virtual physical science centers. You have everything virtual. So the paradigm shifts that happen from passive viewing to active engagement, from knowledge transfer to knowledge construction, from focus from individual learning to community engagement, from singular voice to multiple voice, from limited visit to enhanced accessibility. We had to do that. I will tell you a few things how you enhance accessibility in museums or science centers. Innovation and technology integration, collaboration and partnership, evidence-based presentation and policy, focus on equity and inclusion, and citizenship, social responsibility, engagement with complex science and technology issues. That is what these changes happen over the years, and today we are in the last one where we are talking about engaging complex science and technology issues and citizenship. Modern science centers, for example, have hands-on exhibits where experiential learning takes place, theme-based galleries, science shows, planetariums, space theaters or immersive theaters, hands-on activities, workshops, innovation labs or maker spaces, immersive simulations, mobile and digital access for remote areas, citizen science and STEM career guidance, and co-creation and community participation. These are the features of Science Center, especially now. And few exhibits, from exhibits to experiences. How do you do? If you look at the bottom left two slides, these ones are the glass door inside exhibits of Birla Museum, Calcutta. And these are where participation has been introduced. Even the London Science Museum has introduced launchpad participatory exhibits, whereas London Science Museum is predominantly a glass door collection-based museum. And digital transformation taking place in museums where integrating virtual reality, augmented reality, artificial intelligence, and digital storytelling. That is because it's possible to have 24/7, 365 days through virtual mode. That's why new mode science museums are adopting. Virtual Science Center online outreach, hybrid models of engagement, both on-site and online. I can tell you one interesting exhibit which I saw some time back in Science Museum London, which was a temporary one, where musical concert, only instruments were there. You could operate them from your home and have your own musical presentation. So online you could operate those. So that is going to be the future of science museums. From science teaching to science dialogue. So it's not only informing public, now you are getting them involved into discussions and participative projects, and we promoting that allows visitors to critical thinking. And we are becoming more global and inclusive, incorporating local culture and regional knowledge, emphasis because of community participation, emphasis on inclusivity, accessibility, and diversity. Now, I give you sometime this inclusivity and accessibility becomes problem because of economic consideration, physical considerations, or language consideration, education consideration. So I give you an example of Calcutta Science City. One in 2006, one went there. We had a problem of visitor footfall. It was going down. People thought Science City, because of a self-sufficient, is expensive. So we had to find a way. So we gave, in marketing it is said, the customer lost today is lost forever, whether you get any money out of him or not. So we introduced a concept of ₹2 ticket for social, you call a poverty, below poverty line people. Otherwise, they were not coming. You won't believe, we increased the audience by 20,000 that particular year. Then later on, the outskirts of Calcutta, people felt, we had a survey done, they felt that we are very expensive. Science City, if you see all facilities, you spend about 150 rupees. Today it may be a little more. But you can see major facilities in rupees 15. When we learned that they have the concept that we are inaccessible because of economic consideration, we introduced Science City in rupees 15. Because seeing major facilities except the shows, you could see Science City and spend whole day in 15 rupees. And 200,000 visitors were increased in 1 year. So this is what happens. Sometimes you have to make your facility accessible and inclusive. And you create global networks. During time of Dr. Ghose and even later, we had a lot of collaboration with ASTAC, Association of Science and Technology Centers in US, European Collaborative, and others. And Indo-US Commission supported us in a lot of exchange programs. And we today are challenging global challenges. We are addressing them through climate change, sustainability projects, having exhibitions, programs for public. So I want to hands-on, if you see the second generation museum, Birla Museum, the exhibits on the left side, only inside glass doors. On the right today, the third generation, they are hands-on. People are able to manipulate, interact. And transition to interactivity came in late 20th century. You see everything, you can participate. And then object to experience entry. How do you create experiences? Now this particular exhibit you are seeing is called SOS, Science on Spare, where a white ball about 2 meters in dia is converted into simulated Earth by 4 projectors. And the data to the projector comes from NASA normally. And you have previous day's data, the Earth situation, condition, whether it's climatic condition, whether it's weather condition, earthquake, cyclone, or forest cover, whatever it is. And that comes to us 12-hour delay because of the conversion into coordinates, and it comes to us. And we project that and make people to see Earth in reality and how it is looking today. Where was the earthquake? Where was the cyclone? In the best one is where are the aeroplanes flying on Earth today? The dots in moving. So this is how you can engross, make visitors immerse into a situation. Then the live demonstrations are very popular in Science Center, where you show the process of science, experiments are demonstrated, and visitors are engaged. Complex principles like the geometry, dynamics, the liquid nitrogen show on the left side on the top, you see that is a smoke is created by liquid nitrogen, and my colleague vacuum and pressure demonstrations are explained. And the informal learning, science centers are informal learning situations where nobody tells you what to do. You are free to learn, but research indicates that learning in informal environment stays with you more than what you learn in formal environment, because here you learn out of interest. Okay. And now science centers have across the globe have started demonstrating process of science through activities. You have summer camps, especially our science camps in NCSM are from most of the science centers abroad they have. You make them make them to observe, ask questions, make hypotheses, test them through experiment, analyze the data, and draw conclusion. That's the process of science you do in through special camps for children. And you create excitement. If you create excitement, you develop interest in science. And this is what all happens through demonstrations. And audience participation in deciding the topics of the future exhibitions or programs, community participation to have inclusiveness so that they have ownership and belonging to the science center. We have support of the community. And we have method of co-creation that is being used so that different perspectives come to the design of exhibitions in science centers. And benefits of co-creation is increased visitor engagement, culturally relevant exhibits, stronger science and society linkages, and empowerment of communities because they are participating. And digital transformation happening all along because you can be present 24/7, 365, and your audience is not only local, your audience is global. So that is the concept as taking important considerations. And technology interfaces, even art. Dr. Jayaraman, who started an organization called STEAM in Bombay, you see how art can be brought into science centers along with technology. So this is one of that direction. And STEAM and interdisciplinary practice, children have to build, do, and experiment. So, and art is also involved. You see a lot of art exhibits children create in science centers today. And citizen participation. You have environment mapping and you have observations and you keep them in public participation, important scientific projects. And that's where they get involved, especially in climate change, where we are feeling that public participation is much more important than only scientific research. And inclusion, accessibility, which I have told you, removing the barriers, understanding visitor barrier, what are the barriers that block them from coming to the science centers, then point solutions. And universal design and practices, equity and community relevance is in practice today in science centers. Sustainability, how do you promote sustainability principle? And 16, 17 of the United Nations sustainable global sustainable ideas, how do you incorporate through your programs from time to time because you have a good public interface. And now Science Center also are facing financial crisis. So various models are evolving. We call them business and financial resilience models. And diverse revenue, you find out revenue generation, various sources through sponsorships, partnerships, membership, grants, souvenir shops, etc., cafeterias, which brings about 40% of your income. And social enterprises business model, especially in India, 2% of the income tax can be given to social CSR projects. So museums come under that. We can tap those resources. Professional consultancy which science centers can give to other science centers which are coming up. So you can earn money and you give space rental. So these are the models which people are struggling to find out. Another serious problem the science centers facing today is the professionals, manpower trained. How do you get trained and committed manpower? So there are hybrid roles. We can't have too many staff because we can't get them. The scientists or the curators, technologists, educators, community managers, communicators, and PR and marketing practitioners. These all kind of training we have to give to our existing staff so that you are able to deliver. And continuous professional development and pedagogy and in pedagogy and technology is required. Skill upgradation is required because technology is emerging, and making science center profession attractive is another big challenge. How to get talented people to science profession? And thus these are the few consideration we have to take, and you have to collaborate with global networks. I give you the red one: Excite, European Collaborative Science, Industry and Technology, collaborative in Europe, STAC, Association of Science and Technology in Washington and North America, Red Pop in South America, SPAC Asia Pacific, SASTEC in Africa, and NAMES in Arab and Northern Africa. So these are the various networks in the world which we are part of a SPAC, and initially we were not a SPAC partner, but we are now. Future of science centers will evolve as participatory hubs of knowledge, and they will be community driven. Innovation will shape the exhibits and science centers. You have to innovate, otherwise if you want to remain relevant to society. And the future trends are AI-driven personalization, immersive mixed reality exhibits, climate adaptation, deeper community governance, decolonizing collections, micro museums. The NCSM you might have seen has started a new Ghar Ghar Man Museum. It has started. So you are promoting micro, that everybody concerned develop their own museums in their community or homes. And now let's come, all we do so many science centers, where do we come into the impact? What is the impact of these centers? I classify them into four. Whatever programs, exhibits, media you have personal impact, societal impact, political impact, and economic impact. One of the international study says that 87% is personal impact in science centers, 9% is societal. Political impact they could not assess, but economic impact is 4%. That's how the study indicates. But in India, the personal impact, I would say, it is science learning, social experience, career direction form, personal enjoyment, change attitude towards science, interest in science, and increase professional expertise. These are the changes, personal impact we expect. These are reflected by interest and knowledge, skills, attitudes, enjoyment, inspiration, and creativity, action and behavior. And that's what said personal science learning is 54%. Change attitude towards science is 18%. Enjoyment is 14%. Career choice is 7%. Others is 7%. And some of the examples who have publicly said the Science Museum made them interested in science. Vikas Sinha, Dr. Vikas Sinha, whom you probably know, he publicly says he took physics because of the photoelectric effect exhibit he saw in Birla Museum, Calcutta. And Professor Niranjan Thatte from IIT Bombay, even after scoring President Medal in IIT, he went to research in Max Planck. And today he's a professor at Oxford University in astronomy. And you know, he was a regular visitor of this science center from 6th standard to 12th standard up to night 12 o'clock sky observation. We used to make telescopes. He was so interested. Then Siddharth Ray, Bose Institute director, he always praises. We have a young student, Dr. Bhushan Mahadik, who was our regular participant of the Nehru Science Center. He is the director of research at the Prelis Biologicals in California today. This boy, I'm in touch with him. That's why I know what his progress. He is introducing nanotechnology to biology. So great work. And Professor Anna Bhattacharya, director of Homi Bhabha Science Center, whether he accepts or not, but I know from the Don Bosco School in Matunga, class 6 to class 12, he was a regular visitor to the Science Center. Kedar Vajay, who is the chairman of the Vajay College. I remember he was a regular visitor. I was a young curator at the Science Center. One day he came He was so interested, sir, can I buy Nehru Science Center, because they were from a rich family. So that shows his love for Science Center. And I said, why don't you make your own instead of buying this center? In Thane region, we have no Science Center. That region usually better. But of course, now they are going to make I heard, a aroma museum, perfume museum in Vajay College. So whether Science Center, there was a study in Australia, whether Science Centers influence student decision to study science. So you find the red ones are in TechniQuest Science Center in Melbourne, and all science centers across the globe, you will find a lot was about 7%. A little was about 50. It means indirectly it influences you in your career selection. Okay. And not at all was about 28%, and not sure. So if you look at first two, you find it is contributing to choice study of science. So indirectly participation and activity. What are the social impacts? Many of them, apart from science and technology awareness, trust in science, development of scientific attitude and temper. I give you one example on 1980 solar eclipse in Delhi. I took this picture from Parliament, Connaught Place. Look at barren street, nobody was out. In 2009, Kurukshetra Science Center, illiterate women came to watch eclipse. That's the impact. Science center activities do make you, so this is the impact of science center, societal impact. And economic impacts are plenty. You have, I give you an example of Science City, Calcutta. The land purchase was 25 lakh rupees per acre. Today it is 170 crore per acre. That's how it has transformed the whole area, which was a dumping ground of garbage. We used to put handkerchief on our nose to travel around Science City that time. Look at, that's the economic impact. Transport, food, scientific exhibits, all that visitors spent while coming. So economy is also churned. Some of them direct, some of them indirect economic impact. I'm not going into details. And there was a study done in 2014 in NCSM by Frost and Sullivan. We hired this company for doing a impact study of NCSM centers. So they took 22 centers across the country with 15,865 sample, very large sample of studying what is the impact. So some of the data which I can see, 40% they have 40% students, 67% are male visitors. So you can see women bias or male bias. How do you, then we start women activities. 84% first timers and 82% they expected fun and enjoyment. 78% felt science center beneficial for learning of science. 45% came with education as a purpose. 28% felt change in their viewpoint about science. 98% desire to come back. It means science centers are making them comfortable or they are enjoyable. And 85% felt science centers support formal education. 40% felt science center adds to development of the city and the town. 36 crore was pushed to economy by these 22 science centers. That is economic impact. And 130 crore was alone in transport. 10% felt science centers have political impact. Now, why in India political impact has become important? Today, demand for science center doesn't come from local community. It comes from politicians of the MPs. We say, my constituency, you have a science center. Prime Minister Guwahati, Manmohan Singh ji, who was from Guwahati, said, do a science city in Guwahati. Mr. Bajpayee said, do a science city in Lucknow, because he was from Lucknow. Indra Kumar Gujral, he said, do it in Jalandhar. Otherwise, Jalandhar was not suitable for a science city. Advani ji said, do a science city in Gandhinagar. So that is the political impact. And similarly, today, most of the 36 science centers, you see, present minister is from Rajasthan. 8 centers are coming in Rajasthan now. So this is how politicians influence development of science. So there is a political impact, which I say, especially from Indian perspective. So major impact of science center is bridging the gap between scientific institution and the public, fostering curiosity, scientific temper and STEM learning, supporting informal education and lifelong learning, promoting community engagement in science and technology issues, creating awareness of science and technology and knowledge, developing interest in science and technology. These are major impact. So that, but they are facing challenges today, which are their funding problem and resources, evolving public expectations. How do you meet them is too challenging. Competition for attention, because more amusement park fun centers are coming up in cities. People here is taken away by those, but you have to become more attractive. Rapid pace of development in science, relevance to global issues, balancing traditional and new roles. How do you do that? Audience engagement and reach, adoption of technology. These are the challenges that science centers are facing. But you have opportunities to use new technologies, have online reach, outreach, have citizen science projects and community engagement, have partnership with schools, universities, science academies, scientific institutions, and industries. Why I say scientific academies? I saw an exhibition in Mariam Coastland Science Museum in Washington, D.C., where American Academy of Sciences had developed an exhibition on climate change. And daily data is available to any visitor on they are monitoring the climate across the globe. That data is available to visitors. So how direct interface of the current scientific research with the public. That is, academies have to join and focus on sustainability and climate education. So that's what it is. And you reimagining visitor engagement. Today's audience, especially young audience, is tech savvy. They they don't like glass door exhibits. So you have to make inclusive, so various methods like Dr. Jayaraman will agree with this, storytelling as a tool for science communication, hands-on and minds-on learning, inclusion of local culture and indigenous knowledge into your presentations. After all, everything is unified. Designing interactive participative exhibits, accessibility for people who don't come. Those unreached people you have to reach either through mobile or through online, or make your centers accessible. So road ahead is science center must be community hubs for lifelong experiential learning. They must be have an expanding role public dialogue on science and society. They must emphasize on STEAM, science, art and design, building global network of science museum centers for sharing of experiences, and shaping a scientifically literate and curious society. So that's what Malaj. Thank you very much for your attention.
That's a real engagement in the science and technology and innovations. Sir, at the junctures, I don't want to come between you and the audience here, but as a true science communicator, in fact, I must tell you, you proved differently yourself, in fact. The people sitting here, may I request you to please put your hand together and give a, I think standing over, he deserves a standing ovation kind of thing. May I request people to.
Thank you.
This is an excellent example of how the science communicator should communicate with the science, not with the heads, with the hearts, in fact, and he proved. And that's a real tribute to Dr. Saroj Ghose today. If the Saroj Ghose, wherever you are, in fact, we will be doubly happy to see your product delivering such a mammoth things in science communication. Sir, thank you so much, in fact. Yes, we'll definitely crossing the time. The time is not going to barrier between us, in fact, because we'll take a 5-minute break to start with the next thing. But before that, let's thank today's innovative mind, in fact. May I request the chairman and the director to please join us and hand over the memento.
Oh, so nice. My photo. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Absolutely one-to-one correspondence.
Oh my, thank you.
The idea is, I must disclose here, the idea is very simple. The fruit basket, he will carry it himself in the guest house. And he won't keep it in the guest house, his mementos, because he will like to show his memento to his better half, what he did for the last 50 years in science and technology. Sir, thank you so much, in fact. Friends, I think those who are online, offline, and inline, we'll take a break for next 10 minutes. Do you require? I require it. Okay, we'll break it. We'll back in 5 minutes times to you. Be with us, and thank you those who are, not in the classroom here, not in this conference room. Thank you so much for your. Oh my God, how many? Can I get a figure? How many? Oh, 45. I think we crossed, I think 60 in fact, That's great number, because in Bombay, we are facing so many, like good things. The celebration is going on, Ganpati festivals, and then political celebrations also going on. All the Rasta Rokos are there, in fact, We managed to come here from Chembur. I don't know how we can manage to come. Another very important thing, schools and colleges are, enjoying their holidays, thanks to Ganpati, in fact, like. Otherwise, the things would have been different today, in fact, like. Okay, sir? We'll take a break here. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And those who are here, please make it to 50 to 60. Okay? We'll come back. Thank you.
पाठक साहब को मैं स्पेशल थैंक देना चाह रहा हूँ इस सेंटर के बनाने के लिए वी हैड अ बिग प्रॉब्लम ऑफ politician wanted to take a road from the science center for the and you helped me I remember आप commissioner थे उस समय so nice of you sir I remember this center that you remember that road the bridge is coming up so nice
That road has been given to us.
Mr. Narayकर,
yeah
in his successor, Mr. Sami, where he had.
yeah
I was on
you were in the
Something.
Tighten your seat belt. We are about to depart. Huh? Yeah. No, it's fine. That's critical.
And see here.
So, friends, we are about to start. I said, it's time is we're just waiting for another. We'll have to transition from AM to PM.
Is it okay?
Okay, okay.
Yeah, you can put the PPT.
I think I cannot wait anymore now. Please,
Just with this one.
we are
Okay.
ready for
Fine.
departure in the heaven for the second talk. Without undue, we'll go ahead with it. Second talk, as I said to you earlier, if Dr. Venkatvardhan would have been here today, okay, he born in 1938, okay, it will be precisely 1st September. So this is the second year I am missing his birthday, in fact, And I must tell you, I had a privilege and honor of working with Dr. Venkatvardhan for 18 years. Okay, take plus or minus few days. Friends, on the behalf of National Center for Science Communicator and Nehru Science Center, National Council for Science Museum, it's our honor and privilege to welcome you and extend our welcome to you on this very, very important day. Though the Venkatvardhan is considered amongst us, I don't want to use the word, everybody knows him differently. Okay? If today's lecture is concerned, is very, very close to me, as I said to you earlier, 1980, just after the solar eclipse, I happened to meet Dr. Venkatvardhan in the planetarium. And that's the way I came closer to the planetarium. And I must tell you, I have no this thing admitting what I am today is because of one person inspiration. I don't know, he never allowed me to perspire anywhere. Friends, to deliver this today's lecture, we have very, very distinguished close colleague. I was tempted to introduce Dr. Pradyumna Ganguly, but I am not going to do that. Very simple. When he told me, Suhas, Dr. Venkatvardhan and Pradyumna Ganguly, one common thread, one common things. Anybody can guess? Yes? TIFR, that's what Tata Institute of Fundamental Research Impact. Any other thing? Pradyumna Ganguly invited Dr. Venkatvardhan to attend his marriage. Madam is also here, and he attended the marriage in fact, like. Then you know how the association in fact is. And when I was thought of, like whom to invite to give a first memorial lecture, I don't have to think any more things. And when I disclosed to sir, the answer is very, very positive. That's the reason we are here today. So thank you
Right.
very much for accepting our invitations. Well, where should I start now? Should I take you back what happened in 1938? To be precisely, 1st September 1938, Dr. Venkatvardhan born in Salem. Okay? And his journey started. 62, 61, he came to Bombay. I was about to born. I was not born on this earth. Okay? His journey took him from laboratories of TIFR to collaborate with NASA on the Apollo lunar sample, in fact, like. I don't know how many people are aware of it. Have you seen the moon through the telescope? Yes or no? Yeah. How does it look? Moon look like? Look like pitted with a lot of craters kind of thing. Okay. This person, what Galileo tried to do through the telescope, he changed this instrument to microscope. Okay. I start looking the samples of the moon through the microscope. And you know very well, in fact, like the space era we started in 1957, 69, the man put on the moon. And so far, so good, 12 men had walked on the moon surface. And they brought back something about 400 kilograms of rocks. So whatever the moon is weighing today is 400 kilograms less. And thanks to this scientist. And I must tell you, at the planetarium, we had a moon sample, in fact, I don't know what happened to it, in fact. I don't want to get into that. It's a real things, in fact, like seeing that moon sample is taking you back of history. And you go back 13.8 million years ago when the universe came to existence, kind of thing, in fact, like. And what Dr. made remarkable was his passion for bringing science closer to the people, in fact. As a director of the Nehru Planetarium was nearly for 2 decades. Okay. The planetarium started way back in 3rd March 1977, inaugurated by then Prime Minister Indira Ji, in fact, like. Sir, I totally agree with you. The country runs because of the political will. And if you start what you disclose to us, every prime ministers like to have a science center in their constituency. I hope the more prime minister will come up and we'll have more science center, in fact. The very simple things that instead of 5 years term, you can make a 6-month term. So at least we'll get multiplied by 12. That many planetarium will have it during their tenure. And well, I can go on and on. I don't know whether you have had a privilege of seeing the planetarium show. Okay. You get transported from reality to amazing, universe differently, in fact. And I think there is not a single director in the world who can change this particular technology differently, in fact, like. He had a concept of, like, he put one of the show entitled Galileo to Galileo. He brought the Galileo, a human Galileo, watching the telescope. And the dialogue says, after the spaghetti and wine in the Spanish restaurant, let us move to the all-time genius, Galileo Galilei. And when that sentence comes, the Galileo come on the scene. And he start observing the sky in backlight. That's the kind of thing. Then we had a program called, the Story of the Universe, where he introduced called Muppet, in fact, like. One is bright Muppet, another is full Muppet. Okay, and they were engaged in the question answer session kind of thing, and that's precisely what expected kind of thing. Well, being a scientist, sometimes head works differently, but heart come to this thing. And I must tell you, exactly 2 years back, we had a privilege of, he had written, I don't know how many poetry he has composed kind of thing. The Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, How I Wonder What You Are. That's a poem, you know it. But he allowed me to change that same poem into Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, Now I Know What You Are. Okay? You are furnaces in the sky. Okay? And I can go on and on. That's the influence I have. And I must tell you, I was not a born poet. But he had changed me. And so far, so good. I had able to compose more than 35 poems of mine. And they are with me, not ready to share anybody recently. But I had a privilege of, and with Dr. Jayaraman, National Center Science Communicator, able to bring out his book in fact. If you require it, I can share, not today, tomorrow onwards, on a digital platform kind of thing. So I said to you, sir, I definitely, I am controlling myself. And yes, you can see him, his different avatars. Okay. That's the avatar when we had a, directors conference when the planetarium completed 30 years of its existence in way back in 2007, not 7. Okay. He was in Salem and he had appeared here, and that's the way he had delivered the lectures, enthralling the audience. Friends, definitely, sir, glory to us.
Thank you very much.
And as I said, no introduction is required. I have beautiful, very, very crafted, I will share with you. and I must tell you, I am going to get away henceforth. I'm going to get away with the audience in the introduction. Very simple. These are the Google people in fact. You can just type their things in the Google, they immerse themselves differently. That's the way. With that, do anything. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Of course, one is very nostalgic today because when I joined TIFR as a PhD student in 1971, right? 1971, when I joined, TIFR was absolutely in its golden days, the golden era of TIFR. And you had a whole bunch of people who were your mentors, remarkable people. I mean, if you start listing those mentors, the whole lecture will go simply with those. But what I'd like to do is, during that particular period, what was very interesting in TIFR, very exciting, these mentors, some of them, I shall mention names, like Professor Udgaonkar. Many of you possibly have heard the name. He is no more now. Theoretical physicist that time. Professor Balu Venkatraman, V.G. Kulkarni, Prabhakar Lavkare, M.G.K. Menon, etc., including Narlikar, whom you see right there. I mean, they are the people who have mentored us, right? Devendra Lal. So these are the people who mentored us in TIFR as PhD students. Why I'm mentioning that is because in 1971, in TIFR, interestingly, in TIFR, they started interacting with schools because they said, if you don't impact schools and school children, you will not build the people or the citizens of tomorrow. And therefore, started off two major programs in TIFR by them. One by Balu Venkatraman, called the Bombay Association for Science Education, and the other by V.G. Kulkarni, with all the municipal schools in Mumbai. And people like us got very strongly influenced by these mentors, and we became, if you may go back to your college days, demonstrators. So they were the teachers, we were the demonstrators. And in TIFR, every Saturday, they would invite about 100 to 200 school children. Morning used to be a lecture in English. Afternoon used to be a lecture in either Hindi or Marathi. And people like Narlikar, Devendralal, Venkatraman, and others were the ones who would deliver these lectures to the school children. And people like us were demonstrators with liquid nitrogen putting on the floor, and you have all that going across, and we would demonstrate all that. That's where I started, very strongly influenced by these mentors. And therefore, the whole area of science education and whatnot, it got embedded into us at that point in time. Somebody like Professor Yashpal, for example, a phenomenal communicator. I mean, they're the people who taught us. So we have spent our, the first 6 years of our research lives with these people. Venkat was one of them, right? Venkat, interestingly, I must tell you, I just picked up from one of my archives today a magazine, because we used to organize, inter-school exhibitions. And one of those major inter-school exhibitions which we, actually organized was in the Science Center here. And when the date was 27th January 1977, up to 4th February 1977. A complete week long. Thousands of school children came to this campus. And we had exhibits, etc., and all that. And we had science essays. So the best science essays, I was in charge of that. I created this particular souvenir, which I edited, okay, in 1977, number one. And number two, interestingly, I asked Venkat to write an article. And that's why I brought it here with me. And Venkat wrote an article in this one, a 3-page article. And I told him, you're writing for school children, you would love to do it. And he said, introducing the earth. And what a beautiful article. And of course, during the science exhibition, he actually came and delivered lectures, met students. So Venkat was I call him Venkat, though he was 10 years older to me. Age was never a barrier to him. And the beauty about Venkat was, apart from his serene nature, was an inevitable smile. Okay, that was fantastic. So his body language, his emotions, and everything would simply, come up. And when you met him, and those who had the opportunity of meeting him and working with him, it was absolutely paradise. So with this little introduction, I thought I would tell you that the interaction with him was so intense. And so that's all about. And so I put in this particular collage, and there are many more photographs. There are about 60 photographs, but there's no space. Just picked up a few, just to bring him live in this particular room. So that's about Venkat to start with. And because he was so closely involved with evolution and the history of Earth, etc., and would speak about it with such lucidity, I thought I would title my, what happened? It got stuck. Something got stuck. Can you, the next slide is not coming through. Can you do something? Ah, there you are. So that's the reason I called it dialing into the past, connecting the present, shaping the future. A subject which was very close to Venkat. Now, why did I call it dialing into the past? Because the previous speaker, Mr. Taylor, spoke about what is the role of museums and how the entire functioning of museums and the concept of museums have changed into becoming centers of learning and centers of dynamic learning. So if I summarize his talk in one line, I think he ended by saying that museums are dynamic centers of learning and continuous learning. Now I'm picking in from there, out there. So this is that souvenir which I just showed you out there. You can have a look at it anytime later. These were all those essays written by the prize-winning essays in 1977, written by the school children, which are all here. Okay. Now, So what's the theme of what I'm going to elaborate? That is the inquiry and inquiry. You see that E and I. It's inquiry and inquiry. Because simply inquiry doesn't give you all the signs. You need inquiry on your inquiry. So results of your inquiry, you have to go into an inquiry. So therefore, it's an inquiry and inquiry. About what? It's about history, geography, and sociology of our earth, which does not exist today. So the questions, therefore, you have to ask the right questions. And this is something, these are the different types of questions which people have asked in the past. And I've tried to find out what the answers are. Some went through perception, some went through evidence, some went through interpolation, some went through extrapolation. So the question that came about, there are many dimensions to this particular bit. So looking at it, and therefore I've put in our old, I'm used to all those telephones, the old one, the new one, and look at what is due to come when there'll be no telephones in the future. When my mind will speak with your mind, and all our minds will speak with each other. There'll be no telephones. Devices and humans will merge into one. It's already there. I'll show you some experiments which have been done. But that's the dimensionality that one is talking about. So the important part, therefore, is that if we are talking about concepts coming in, we are talking about the confluence of various sciences in modern, what I call as modern paleontology. Modern paleontology. It's not just about collecting rocks, collecting samples, going there and finding the shapes, etc., but using all the methods of science, including anthropology and sociology, integrating all of that together to give a comprehensive understanding of what we were at some point in time. And therefore, all the, when I was in TIFR, for example, and Professor Devendra Lal and everybody else, dating using carbon, radiocarbon, etc., were a common thing. But what about all the other things? Because when all the other things developed, they brought a new look and outlook into how do you make these analysis of what was there in the past. And therefore, you didn't look at the, if you got a fossil, you didn't look at a fossil only as a rock. You could go deep into it now and look at, and extract out of it. I use the word extract out of it, the hidden knowledge in that fossil. That's what it's all about. And that is what has given us a whole range of things about our anatomy, etc., etc. I'll give only a few examples of that. So today, this subject is one of the most advanced subjects, which is the confluence of all these different types of sciences put together. So today, if I have to create a natural history museum, right, I must have all these dimensions there. So children who come there, or public who come there, understand the unity in science, technology, sociology, and humanities. That is what modern museums should be all about as well. Then they will become dynamic centers of learning. So that's the first part. I won't go into details of it, but the important part is that we started life here as single cellular organisms, went into multicellular organisms, and then the whole sort of transformations that took place over so many billion years out there. The question is, how do you go back in time to map what happened at that point in time? That's the challenge. Now, when you look at life on Earth, and I just confine myself, when you look at these particular, and come right there about the human, we are not going back too much to the past. Let me look at the human civilization, talking only a few million years ago. Right? And therefore, when you're looking at it, see this interesting part. Those footsteps, they're the actual footsteps that have been pulled out. I've given the reference there. 3.66 million years ago, old footprints of an early hominin species known, etc., in Tanzania. What did it show? It showed a biped, which means that starting somewhere down as four-legged, slowly we learned how to stand in two legs. What was the impact of that? Two hands became free. So you could do certain things with your two hands. So with two hands free, you could use those two hands to make tools, to make all sorts of things out there. And therefore, in search for food, you made the tools. You could do all sorts of things for hunting, etc. So this transformation that you see from, a four-pedded to a biped made a huge transformation out there. And we have huge evidence to show that. That's the first part. I will just come to the next part. Very interesting. That when you traverse these few million years and come to recent times, what has happened? Our brains, which were quite small, slowly started developing. And with the enlarging of the brain, you can see it there, the enlarging of the brain to recent times, the number of neurons changed, everything, and the whole complexity of the brain matter. I'm differentiating the brain matter from mind, because if I go to the word mind, I'll be entering the field of metaphysics. So I'm just confining myself at the moment into, please. Yes, of course, they can see their whale, elephant, man, all of them did. But if you look at the interesting part, and it's a great question, if you look at that part, look at the brain weight to body weight, and look at the ratio. Whale is 1:10,000. Elephant, 1:1,000. Look at man, 1:50. The ratio is different. You're absolutely correct. But see, because of this ratio, the whole concept of our beginning to think, taking care of ourselves, being innovative, learning to live, all those things, and therefore you can see here evolved into, how the entire physiology changed. So he was talking about the Smithsonian and the Natural History Museum in London. I mean, you go there, you see actually examples of all this. It's so fascinating. Now come to the next part of it. No, important. See here. On the top of that, you can see that there is now a dip. There you can see. And we'll have to look at why that dip and the impact of that dip in the future. That dip is shaping our future. So we need to look at the dip very carefully as well. Why the dip? Will there be a bigger dip? I'll come to this part towards the end of the talk. And now, for example, with very advanced scientific methods, you can see there, with a sort of high resolution microscope and polarized light, etc., people analyze the tooth. And from the tooth, you can see that, like in the case of plants, you have those annular rings. Teeth also have that sort of stuff. And from there, you can find out from the synchrotron X-rays, etc., what are the type of minerals that are there. That would give us an idea of what we must have eaten at certain point in time. And that got embedded in the tooth, and that's what you saw. So now you can see how we are combining some of the most advanced concepts in physics and chemistry with, going to paleontology, and not only with paleontology, but with anthropology. behavior. Therefore, you cannot delineate humanities when you're studying all this. And therefore, what the previous speaker and Dr. Jaram mentioned about bringing art, science, culture, obviously, and everything else in a holistic manner is of great importance out there. So I thought just very quickly, I won't go into great details of it, but starting something like 2 million years ago, we were basically hunters. We were nomadic, moving from place to place. But then came in the next part, and therefore we were eating flesh, etc., etc. That we used to chew a lot. So our jaws were broader. So that's why in that picture there, you know, at that stage, you see the change in the morphology out there. So we were that. Then came in what? Man started looking at agriculture. Now, the moment you start agriculture, it became a collective activity. The moment it becomes a collective activity, you create societies, you create communities. So man's community living started around that particular period. And therefore, a whole range of things of irrigation, etc., all that started. And the moment that started, when you could have sufficient amount of food for the society, right? What do you do with the surplus? You trade. So the whole concept of trade and commerce all started there. Bartering systems, all those things evolved at that point in time. So then, during that particular time, also, you have copper, bronze, all those things. Wheel was invented. Great breakthrough. Transportation, movement of goods, getting water from well, a whole range of those things. And then, interestingly, around, paper making. So the whole thing of, trying to carve on rocks or painting on rocks only being a mode of communication changed the moment paper came and papyrus and a whole bunch of other things out there. Then a major breakthrough. What was that major breakthrough? 1451, printing. Printing was invented by Johannes Gutenberg in Mainz. Interestingly, both my wife and I did a postdoc in Mainz. Okay, 1977, we both went there and we were doing a postdoc in that, not in printing, on something else. But very interesting, the printing. And 13, I think it's either 13 or 11, Bibles were printed that time using the first printing press. So you can see the influence of religion into all these things are very important. Steel came in at that point, so new materials. And then after that, you see the Industrial Revolution. So the building of communities, the building of everything, communication systems, energy utilization, devices, everything came in during that particular thing. The concept of societies changed. Then the next step, which was very significant, was where you brought in that computers and such devices came in to being. And the moment that came in, the concept of calculating, computing, and doing what computers can do had a major transformation. For example, when I was in IIT Kanpur, in doing my post-graduation, in 1969, we were using computers, and interestingly, an IBM 360. And IIT Kanpur was so liberal that you could go inside the computer room, sit there, and actually see the whole thing working. Okay, a massive room with. Then when I came to TIFR had those days in 71 one of the most advanced computers in this country, CDC 3600. It was a whole floor in TIFR, and we used to punch those cards and everything. So the technology was different. Then from there, We went into PDP and other. So I've gone through the whole transformation. I've used the most archaic computer systems, and today I'm using the most advanced computer systems. So I've gone through the entire transition out there from 60s till today. Then came in the knowledge products, software. Then a very interesting thing took place around 1977, 78, 80s. An Indian professor who was then living in the US, Professor Ananda Chakraborty. I've known him for many, many years. He's no more, unfortunately. He brought a major breakthrough in the world. And what was that major breakthrough? He is credited to be the first human to have created a man-made bacteria. He created a man-made bacteria. And Professor Chakraborty, why did he create the man-made bacteria? Because he said there's a major issue with oil spills. So if my bacteria can eat up the oil, I'll then collect the bacteria, get rid of them, and I've got rid of the oil as well. So he created, from Pseudomonas, he created a new bacteria which could metabolize oil. And he filed for a patent in the US. Now look at the interesting part. Law is always behind science. There's a lag. There's a viscous lag. Law is very viscous. Science is, the viscosity of science is very low. Right? So what happens if a liquid or a fluid, let me use the word fluid. As a scientist, let me use the word fluid now. If a fluid with low viscosity meets a fluid with high viscosity, what happens at the interface? What happens at the interface? There's surface tension. There's a viscous drag. There's a surface tension. And that's what happens between law and science. A viscous drag. So what did the American law at that point in time? Said that you cannot get a patent. Patent means you take ownership of your invention. You cannot take ownership of your invention. Therefore, we will not give you a patent. Why? Because you're taking the position of God. Only God can create. Man cannot. So there's an issue between legalities, morality, and public order. This matter went up to the Supreme Court in the US. The Supreme Court in the US gave a judgment in Professor Ananda Chakraborty's favor in 1981. And thus was born biotechnology. Investors came and invested. So the whole thing changed. So that is where biotechnology had its early beginnings with Professor Ananda Chakraborty. Very interesting. Then if you look at simultaneously, what happens? Then you go into Internet of Things, which we are all aware of, IoT and whatnot. I won't go into details. But in my opinion, we have jumped a generation. I call it from Society 5 to Society 7. I say we have actually jumped to Society 6. Why? Because today we are into a system, and I'll give you examples of that. One, of course, the previous speaker spoke about AR, VR, and metaverse and all artificial intelligence, etc. Very difficult to differentiate between what is real and what is virtual. Very difficult. The line is very, very thin between what is real and what is virtual. What is real just now may be virtual. What is virtual just now may be real. So that is where we are. And I will come towards the end of it. Now today we have very smart materials. Nano materials, materials which remember, with materials with memory, right? And all those things are coming there. And so we're looking at, we're living today in a world which is transiting between real and virtual. So we are into a real and virtual duality. And interestingly, that if you look at some of these sentences which I'm speaking, you will think I'm talking something from metaphysics or something from Swami Vivekananda and others, or something from our Vedic knowledge, where the whole concept of material and spiritual duality and all those things are all spoken about. We are coming to that level to see whether we can analyze some of those things and take advantage of some of that. So where are we? So when you come to evolution of new, inclusive communities, what I'm saying, you tunnel through the imagination barrier. You have tunneled through because you did not go in an analog way. It was not a continuous process. There were breaks somewhere. So you tunneled through. So today the concept of communities are novel democratized communities. For example, your digital communities. Many of us are members of that. We know what's happening. I won't go into details. Then smartphones, which is now going towards mind-to-mind networks, M2M networks. GPS systems. Today, interesting is, you ask a Uber driver, मुझे वर्ली जाना है, उधर एड्रेस बोलिए. Without that, he's completely disabled. Right? GPS system. So, see what technology has done to us. Slowly, what is happening? We are slowly stopping to use our own brains. So, in a way, we are making ourselves a bit dull. Dangerous. Right? So, but on the other hand, see what advantage? Telemedicine, robotic surgery, smart supply chains, 3D printing. Now, I'll give you examples, what I call as life made to order. You can look at a menu card and say, I want a child of this type, and you'll get it. Right? Go to the next part. I won't go into details because you've heard and seen many of these things. Now, see this part. If you look at the world population, past, present, and future, 8,000 BC, when we were basically an agrarian society, 5 million. Then 180, people say it's anywhere between 200 million to 600 million. Okay. A few million here and there really doesn't make a difference. 1800, 1 billion, etc., to 8 billion in 2024. Now what's projected? 2048 is 9 billion, 2086, 10.48 billion. So what are the challenges? Obviously, there'll be a resource crunch. So how do you go about getting all these things? And therefore, an important area, and all this is from the World Health Organization. I gave the data and the references. See, no slide or data without a reference has any meaning. So you have to give from where you got it. Now look at this, 15th May 2025. What does it say? See, global life expectancy has gone up. So if you looked at year 2000, or if you looked at the year, 2000, that time the life expectancy was 66.8 years. Come 2019, the life expectancy has gone up to 73.1 years. Now see the other part. Now there's another concept. Simply living is not good enough. What is the quality of life? If you have to take 100 tablets a day and live, then that's not quality of life. That's life, but not quality of life. So they've come to concept of what is healthy life expectancy. That's called HALE by the WHO. And in the year 2000, what was 66.8 years as life expectancy, the healthy one is 58.1. If you look at in the year 2019, what was 17.0 One is 63.5, almost 10 years less. Question comes in, what is this morbidity due to? So we need to look at the reasons of this, because this is where we'll have to emphasize to have the right quality of life and shape the future. Now you know why the title of the talk. So now, very interesting. See there what it's predicted. This is all WHO data. By 2035, more than 1 in 2 adults, imagine in this room, more than 1 in 2 adults will be living with overweight or obesity. And therefore, this is the societal impact of science, technology, sophistication. Economic impact, what is the economic impact? $4 trillion to the global economy. $4 trillion to the global economy. Why? Because if you're not well, you'll not go to work, your productivity will come down, and a whole bunch of other things will happen. So the question is lifestyle. So this is an impact of lifestyle. And I won't go into details of this. The previous speaker mentioned about it, that in terms of the global, the SDGs. And then, therefore, what is the challenge to us as humanity? You have to make more and more and most from less, lesser, and the least. Good, better, and the best from bad, worse, and the worst. Fast, faster, and the fastest from the slow, slower, and the slowest. That's the challenge. So, I now quickly jump the gun, where I told you that we are talking about designer babies. So you can see in Weizmann Institute in Israel in 2021, they actually have created embryos outside the human body in an artificial womb. You don't need now a human. So, or an animal, a life form. So you can see that when they did it, they took, but what did they do? They did not do the fertilization and everything in that part. They did it, they took it from that mouse embryos, from the mouse, took it out from there and put it into this, not an incubator, into an embryo, into a, from the mother 5 days of development, transferred it to specially designed incubator, from where there will be floating liquids, etc. And they showed that that fetus, so it's an artificial fetus now, should grow up to day 11, by which time the embryo has grown tenfold and has blood, a heart beating, and fully developed brain. See what is this 2021. Let's take what happened 1 year later. Now see how fast knowledge and science is developing. A team led by professor in University of Cambridge developed an embryo model without eggs or sperm. So now you don't need to fertilize. So they went like the single cellular organisms, the way they would reproduce. The whole technology has been developed using stem cells. That was 2022. Look what happened in 2025, there, June 2025. Now you can do everything from fertilization to the birth. You can actually do in an artificial womb. They have not done it on humans because they don't have clearance to do so, but it's been done on other. So you can see the futuristic synthetic uterus mimics every aspect of natural pregnancy using advanced technologies like oxygenated fluid, etc. in a biobag. Amazing. And all this couples not just biology, it's biology, chemistry, artificial intelligence, most advanced engineering, etc., to do this. So, what's the next, which has happened already? This is an actual experiment that has happened. I'm not showing you anything which has not happened. So now, how do you, with a Bluetooth technology, just as you put a Bluetooth, this computer speaks with another computer, with a Bluetooth device in me and in you, a new type of Bluetooth. Okay, I'll be able to feel what he's thinking, and he'll be able to feel what I'm thinking. No telephones, nothing. Only telepathy. We possibly won't even look at each other. Now, is that good, bad, or ugly is a separate issue. I'm not going into that part. And so, the exciting times ahead is a whole bunch of technology singularities are coming. Some work which I'm doing at the moment in law is what I call as agentic AIs. And what these agentic AIs will be doing and how they'll be doing is something that I'm doing at the moment, for which I'll be going and spending 2 months in Munich next month, out there with some of the German professors working on that. So there's a whole range of new things that are happening today in the world. Now, in just another 10 to 15 years, the life extension that will take place, you'll live up to 100 years. So people are beginning to understand, why do we grow old? How do you delay that growth? Growing old. You'll grow, but you'll not grow old. Remove the word old. You'll grow. You'll mature. But you will not be old. So very important, all this. And all these things are coming up at this stage. So I thought, so therefore, I created this slide today morning. I call it the Prayag, a sacred confluence of science, technology, and humanities, where synergistic transdisciplinary sangam, which are creations for a societal progression. So we are going into a completely different world, into a different era. So our science museums and others will have to bring all these concepts live to our public. So science museums have to be living things, right? So keeping this in mind, I thought the best way to end the lecture would to go to a song. I'm not going to sing, but I'm going to put a song which was written by Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore or Thakur. And mind you, when was that song written? It's a hymn which is sung in several schools in Bengal and other places. And that is a poem that was, I've written the Bengali side on that. It says, Aguner Porashmani Chho Prane. Leave that aside. So today morning, I translated it in my own way to convey the philosophy of Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore. I said, oh, let the divine flame influence my heart and soul, elevate my life with a sense of eternal sacrifice, raise my mortal body to join your temple's glowing lamps. Let this enlightened get expressed till eternity in songs. Influence every part of my body and soul in confluence with the sparkling stars all night, erasing the darkness of my vision, touching every spot with this enlightening, my pain will sublime. It won't evaporate. It'll sublime. I won't even feel it. So my pain will sublime to elevate my soul to the divine. So this is, I wrote in about 5 minutes, translating Rabindranath Tagore's spirit in that poem. I do write a lot of poems myself, but I was very excited today morning. I said, how do I end this talk today? So I thought about this hymn, which is very close to my heart, and I said, let me translate. So instead of translating it word by word, I put in the spirit behind every word, every line. And the spirit of the poem is that. And therefore, today we are in a time scale where very difficult to differentiate between where we are, how we will achieve perfection. And Swami Vivekananda had said long ago, 100 years, this also is 110 years old, this poem. And Swami Vivekananda told 100 odd years ago also, arise awake and stop not till the goal is reached. The interesting part in that sentence is, till the goal is reached. But interesting is, as soon as you reach, as you have seen in my presentation, that every time you're coming near the goal goes further. So the goal is never reached. Therefore, you'll never stop. That's the spirit behind that sentence which Swami Vivekananda said, that it is a continual process. And that's where we stand. Thank you.
I think this is indeed a, should I say, Jugalbandi? One person, one speaker, other speaker impact. Like real confluence of culture, okay? And that is a scientific culture what we embodied today, in fact. Thank you so much, sir. Yes, we'll come to you. But before that, may I request the director of the Neuroscience, Mesh Kumar, to have some word with you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir, for the wonderful. Yeah, it's working. It's on. For the wonderful 2 lectures we had, one on Dr. Saroj Ghosh and one on Dr. Venkatvardhan, and in their memory, those lectures, Mr. Rautela has given us on paradigms of change about Science Center movement, and we have come across how Science Center has evolved, particularly in Indian perspective as well as world perspective, as given right from 1663, or how things have started earlier. They were like display of artifacts, and later on converting. Particularly in my opinion, the turning point was somewhere around when Exploratorium was set up. Because I think before Exploratorium and after Exploratorium, was when hands-on activities came into Science Center. Before that, only the display. But in fact, that's where I think India got also influenced, because before that, as he told, there were only 2 museums. Later on, everything became Science Center because they were activity-based science centers. Then he also described about evolution of in NCSM itself, how we have changed from 2 to 26, and then later on government stopped. Impact of science centers, how we have influenced. In fact, there was a big list. In fact, some of them are existing. I remember from there, I was recollecting on December 2017, when Dr. Shekhar Basu, who was the chairman, Atomic Energy Commission, he was invited for Heads of Museum Conference. I think Rautala sir was, but he retired by that time, and he publicly accepted that he visited BITM, Birla Industrial of Technology, Science and Technology Museum, and he also got influence, and he came to science after visiting BITM. Dr. Shekhar Basu. He announced this when he was inaugurating Heads of Museum Conference in 2017, which was held at Nehru Science Center. So that is the impact. Bhushan Mahadik, I remember, yeah, he publicly had a press conference in Mumbai and said that whatever I am today, it is because of Nehru Science Center. So indirectly, we can say it's about NCSM, because we are Nehru Science Center is part of NCSM, which is in Mumbai. and he's still in touch with. There are many other names also. I think I was fortunate. I worked Mr. Rautela with him and came to know about many such personalities, even during the survey also. And the impact assessment also, he described how we can influence the children's perception. Apart from what he has told, there was one more story. One lady came to us that my son does nothing. He's so much dependent on us, and he does nothing. He is a press reporter, and then we suggested, okay, why don't you enroll in our vacation workshops, and which, in fact, he himself was instrumental, I should say, to change the perspective of this vacation creative science workshop. And he got actively involved in that. And after the workshop, the lady came to us and said, now he अभी वो बैठता ही नहीं है घर में कुछ चुपचाप शांति से. Like every time he needs something to break it open, as Arvind Gupta has said that the best thing a child can do is break it open the toys or something. So he will open everything on the, I mean, that's the influence on the change, you can say, paradigm of change, the science center, its activities program can bring to us. And a lot of things have been described. Then we came to Dr. Prabodh Ganguly's lecture, which I think started with the it's a very nicely designed topic, dial into the past and then shaping into the future. In fact, I got influenced with that, that in fact, when it came to us, we're thinking what design we can create for that. So we used that Einstein cone.
I saw
Yeah, and then in between, because that Einstein cone itself shows past, present, future, and then putting a dial over there, just we tried to connect with that. And I think it goes very well with the topic. And then he described several things. While summarizing, I can say, like starting from how the old technology were used, even the nowadays also there is the teeth. With the teeth you can it has timeline. In fact, I was not aware that it can be used to find the age of a person. But then the evolution of societies, right from uh, means agrarian, or before that hunting society, and he has described about how I can try to connect it with frontiers of technology or evolution of technology. Now we are talking about AR, VR, Internet of Things. So he has very nicely summarized all those things from you're gonna Stone Age tools, say Copper Age, then Bronze or printing, and how these things have changed. It's a very good topic, sir, what you have described about the history of science and technology and description, how things have evolved. I was fortunate to have that course which was designed by NCSM with BITS Palani. It's really wonderful things to know how things have evolved. Many things we are not aware still about science and technology. So you have mentioned about all those technology. We design one gallery also. It's the frontiers of technology, how things have influenced on that. Then these versions, I like that 1 to 7 society. And why you have missed 6, I don't know. Miss from 5 to 7 directly society. You have mentioned about agri and industrial. Is there any special? It's just because of the technology. I know. If you remember, I don't know how people sitting here. How many of you remember there was something in between telephone or internet, means WhatsApp? There was pager. It is just something like that. Pager, I think it came only one-way communication. It was very, very small time it came. Then internet phone, these phones, satellite phones or mobile phone came, and very few people, only doctors used to use that. So it is something like that, maybe a big jump
the
from there.
Israelis used it to kill the people in Iran.
Okay.
Yeah. They used the pager.
Yeah.
They changed the pager technology to do a mass killing in Iran. 600 people were
But
killed in
it
few seconds.
just appeared and then I think vanished for a very small.
I have
Maybe
used the pager.
that was okay. Yours. Then and the next thing is about the new society with particularly social media, which is talked about nowadays. I think this is something we cannot live without, and how it is influencing with new generation as well as old generation, both of them. That also been, these are the tools perhaps challenge. I remember there was one slide on challenge of future, where I think we can correlate with that limits of growth, where how things will change and where everything will meet together. There is one lecture I remember by some IIT professor, where the limits of growth, which connects with population, demand, supply, and together, at one point they will confluence, and then what will happen, we don't know. How. Then, concluding, this was something very interesting, that STEM bryology, where you talked about the artificial worms. I think that that's the next thing. It will solve many other problems, but whether that touch will remain or not, because technology and social touch or these connections, that will be the further course of research. And Bluetooth and this is now new thing coming up. I don't know how much time it will take, mind to mind, as you tell, but how it will influence us all over, what you are thinking, if I come to know, that is something very strange and something very interesting also, that whether you are thinking bad or something means good about us, whether it will happen, yes, but nowadays already they are talking about beta waves, mind waves, how you can connect with each other. So that's, I think, in summary, we can say the frontiers of technology, evolution of technology, and we have a lot more challenge as the technology will come and come. Means in our life, there will be more and more challenge which will be coming out. So, thank you, sir.
I can
For
thank you
giving me the
for that, just the words. Well, we are coming to very close to lunch is very close to lunchtime in Hagley, but before that, in fact, you have no choice to listen to what we get on sharing.
Friends, it was a great intellectual journey today, right from the atom to Adam and the evolution of the human genius. Shocking news where technology is taking us. Many of us conventionally and traditionally are not mentally prepared to accept these changes. The rate of change is so high that we are not able to keep pace with that. With the two veterans of science communicators, remembering them in memoriam in Tennyson's words, we had a great journey through the world of intellect as well as human hope and the future. So many of us were now thinking what the shape of things will be. There is a past, there is a present, and there is a future, and there is a continuum. That continuum has been examined by scientists today, and we do not know where the boundaries are. Crossing those boundaries, we are moving in a direction, velocity and acceleration are not known even to the technologists who created in the crucible of their imagination. And I extremely liked the poem you translated and read this morning, because poetry is the ultimate form of human understanding. Poetry involves, it's the language of imagination, and imagination involves the difference between an object and the implications of an object. Science is looking at an object and understanding the implications of that object. It is here that you get the fusion, actually the nuclear fusion between an object and the implications of that object. So that field of metaphysics, which you wanted to avoid, you took us. And we cannot escape metaphysics as we are rooted strongly in physics. So I go home with with an intellectual capital basket today, which I did not have when I came over here. I am looking at myself very, very differently after exposure to two veterans who have taken science communication far ahead. And we were remembering those two people in whose memory we did this. Probably poetic justice has never been achieved to this amount of perfection. I'm very proud of it. I congratulate the organizers, was Mike Southam, for bringing the minds together, bringing beautiful minds together. Of course, they repel. So bringing them together into a fusion state. Fusion also is a repulsive state. But from repulsion, we have brought into an attractive state. Thank you very much. Thanks everybody, all the beautiful minds in this room and all the beautiful minds online. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your beautiful words. In fact, well, I just before we disperse, in fact, we like to, have some kind of a remembrance of that day only possible with some photographic images. Okay. So please don't disperse without, you had a cup of tea, but without taking a photograph with us. Okay. So, friend, I think those who are on board will retire very soon. But as a organizer, and our parent organizers, National Center for Science Communicator and the National Council for Science Museum, I think real marriage today in that link. Okay. And well, that slightly gives me some kind of, as you said that you try to enter in my, body and like to know what I am doing. I just thought of doing something which I don't mind disclosing now. It's the only simple thing that you just try to correct yourself that with I am just thinking, taking these two people, okay, I think National Center for Science Communicators should able to curate, not for 45 minutes, a one-day deliberations. Because I remember you, something I can recollect myself that when Dr. Mashelkar was come along with the winners as the Haldi Ka Ladhai, okay, and that was only possible with IPR. And 2001, you had came and delivered lecture at Nehru Center, in fact, and that lecture I could see in the form of book, and he's the author, IPR, and his company is called as Vision IPR. I know what kind of visionary you are, in fact. Now, thank you so much for associating with self, and I'd like to take a small. It's not going to be a small step. It's going to be a giant step with you. So, friends, as a token of appreciation kind of thing, may I request the sir and sir to please do the honor.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So, the essential thing in life, there should be an end. Am I right? And friend, we cannot get away with this particular event with thanking all the people associated with this event kind of thing. I must thank the people on board there. Thank you for joining us and feeling very slightly thing that you saw with us here, the thing would have been double. The enjoyed kind of thing, in fact. Friends, I know here bright-minded have become beautiful-minded here. Okay, that's only possible because of the the radiation coming from thing will be acceptable by thing in total. I don't know what parameter they use it, but I use the one parameter. Okay, whatever you give, I take it. Are you interested in something, sir?
Tomorrow is going to invite you for lunch. You need it now.
And friends, when this thing has everything I said to you, in fact, decided 1.5 months back, and I'm doubly happy today. In fact, I was just thinking all the time how the film industry runs. In fact, film industry runs on the principle of entertainment, entertainment, and entertainment. If the science industry has to run, we have only one choice. Anybody knows the choice? Innovations, innovations, and innovation. These are the two pillars. These are so innovative. And I was all the time considering who is a better science communicator. We had a bright example in front of you, friends. Please should do that whenever you get a chance, have a head-on collision with them. Some molecule will definitely get transferred and you will become a good communicators. Friends, see these supports provided by the Nehru Science Center under the dynamic leadership of dynamic leadership provided by the director of Nehru Science Center, Ramesh Kumarji. We make everybody's life miserable, in fact, differently. This is miserable in the sense, don't take it that way. I could see the faces change. Miserable means we enjoy that. Okay. And I must tell you, whatever you are seeing just now, thanks to the captain sitting over there, in fact, yes. Hello, can I see you? Yes, thank you so much, in fact, like, Amit, thank you so much, in fact, I only know so Amit, okay? Excellent, you took us, I don't know where we are at present, in fact, we are in the universe, okay? Journey started exactly at 10:30, now we'll try to finish by another 10 minutes time, okay? Don't worry. I don't want to delay your lunch wherever you want to have it. And well, all the things, like, I think they're like the department which translated their form into invitation card. Where are the people who are sitting here? Excellent. See both the forms, in fact. Excellent. Sir, thank you for creating this. So this thing, for creating a memento which they can carry and make their wife. So he's already made it back. Kind of thing, in fact, and definitely I must tell you, there's this memento we decided to give to all the speaker for simple reason. Wherever I had been to their houses, I might visit, sir, this is hanging on the wall. Or not in the showcase anytime. It's always kind of thing, in fact, like. I must tell you that one of the speakers told me, Suhas, I'm not in a position to take this memento along with me, but simple reason it was a kind of thing. So we changed kind of, but he said to them, can you deliver it to my residence? I am not going to be there for next 5 days. See to it that you deliver at my residence during that time. So I said, what is the secret? He said, you'll come to know the secret. Because he said, wanted to see, to tell his wife to open the moment in his absence. Okay, you got to know, in fact, like, friends, it was a wonderful day, in fact, for us. It's indeed a real, I don't know, it's a real memorable day kind of thing. Sir, I don't want to say that thank you for allowing us to have this kind of thing. Okay, friends, National Center for Science, sorry for the commercial break. National Center for Science Communicator is in the business of communication for last 30 years. Okay. And we have an excellent veteran here sitting here, those who are occupying the first bench. And those who are not become a part of the members, the membership is open, those who are interested, in fact, like. We only accept not in kind, in cash. The membership at present is, thanks to the chairman, still from the inception till today, the membership is not increased by single pie. It's only 2,000 rupees. Okay, those who are interested, I'll be very happy to accept their membership now only. I don't deal in cash. Okay, not on the transfer. I accept the checks only. Okay, your own check. So friends, that's the kind of thing. And there are a lot of programs are lined up as far as the National Center for Science Communicator concerned. The image says in September, 25th September, we are going to have a memorial lecture in honor of Dr. Devdhar. Okay, Devdhar was responsible for the creation of UpLab. What you just now go to the bank and ATM, that was his brainchild kind of thing. ATM, anytime money, right? That was his kind of thing. And he was also a product of TIFR. So TIFR given a lot more things. In fact, I am a kind of, I could consider, I am in this business of science communication because of the TIFR. Because I walked in 1982 in the corridor of TIFR, happened to meet Dr. Nalikar. Okay, and that's the way I start venture, joined the planetarium, and I'm in the business. Though I retired 5 years back, but I have been refired, I could say, in fact, like. And I said this kind of activity is only possible because the encouragement, I get it. I am not interested in the number. Okay. I am not here to create more Dr. Venkatvardhan. Dr. Venkatvardhan created me, that's a different story. But I must tell you, our lectures are going to be in the popular level. I am sorry to say that people are not aware of what is the popular lecture. I am very simple line. In popular lecture, you don't use any equation. You're seeing both the speaker never use any equation. No x square, y square, and z square, nothing. That's the way we want to venture ourselves. And only if possible, we team together. Okay, so thank you so much for your patient listening. Okay, and your valuable time. And thank you also. What is the speaker? I could get it. How many?
45.
45 plus. 45. We are cross 75. In fact, like okay, that's a great impact. Like with that, I sign off myself and wish you all the best in your future endeavor. And we'll come back in next September with a condition. With this beautiful people happen to give us a good recommendation for the good speaker. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir. And please, Mayor, as I mentioned it to you, I like to have the photographs with you, all the people. So please join us for the program. So you like to go there or you like to come here?
I'm better to go there because
Yeah,
there
then
is
yes, we'll go. नहीं उधर हाँ इधर आएंगे इधर आओ ये फोटोग्राफर आप क्या कैसे या कम या
पीछे लेके
या नहीं ना अभी वो बहुत दिख नहीं करता है सर आप आइए सर आइए सर या यू आर अ पार्ट ऑफ दिस इज ऑडियंस फोटोग्राफ्स